welcome. It is Weird Mythic Podcast. It's me, Naomi, and of course, I am with the most beautiful Serena. Hello, my friend. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. It is fucking freezing, but the sun was out today, so that was really cool.
Oh, God.
I haven't seen the sun
like
in
80
forever.
years. It feels like summer, like it's going to be like an early summer. I don't know.
Nice.
I think that Texas only has like 1 month of winter.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That's what it
feels like. No, my day was good. I was able to get off work a little early, so that was awesome. I mean, like, I got my full 8 hours, but I was happy to get off early, so that was
nice.
cool. Which meant that there was absolutely no traffic, which is always a good thing.
That's good. Yeah, I had to go to Costco after work. Oh, my God.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I tried to go yesterday, and I drove 20 minutes in the wrong direction, like away from my house to go to Costco, and the freaking power was out, and so they were closed.
Oh, burn.
So I called before I went there today, because I was like, I'm not doing this again. And it took me so long to get back home. It was like over an hour drive.
All right. Well, shit, that sucks. Well, damn. Well, thank you guys for, listening. We have been gone for a few months, and I hope you guys listened to our little catch-up episode. And if you did, then you know that we are covering fairies for the next, 4 weeks? I don't know. Have we decided?
Yeah, I guess until we feel like
we're going to talk about fairies until we're done with fairies. So thanks again, guys. So I just kind of wanted to also say, I wanted to mention, honorable mentions of fairies that we have discussed already in previous episodes. And the ones that we have already covered, we covered red caps, which were the little Scottish hobgoblins that would, what were they? They would throw rocks at you if you were coming into their castle, right? Then they take their hat and dip it in blood after they kill you. So, but there's kind of like a hobgoblin, but they were also technically a fairy. We have also talked about brownies, which are like household fairies or house fairies, and they live on farms, and they'll actually help you with chores and stuff if you give them milk or cream. However, don't be hella messy, because then they're going to take that as some sort of disrespect and then make the house even worse. So, they like teamwork. And I believe you covered a banshee, right? Yeah, yeah. And if I remember correctly, if you hear the banshee cry or scream, then that means are you going to die, or is it a loved one is going to die?
I think it's a loved one.
Yeah, a loved one is going to die. I also found out on some of the, on some of the websites that leprechauns are also considered Fae Folk. So we talked about leprechauns, of course. What about, did I miss any that you could think of? I think I had
banshees on my list.
Okay, cool. I also saw because I read a whole bunch of articles on fairies, because I didn't know exactly where to start. Yeah, no surprise there. But people were putting vampires as a type of fairy, which I didn't really agree with. What do you think? Should we consider them fae?
I don't know. So I actually have that. I'll get into my research a little bit later, and I have that on my list of one of the things.
Ooh, okay.
So that is on my list as well.
And then I also saw Santa and Krampus on there as well. And I also have Peter Pan on here, which I think he was some sort of fairy, wasn't he? I don't remember the book very well, but I think
wasn't
Tinkerbell was a fairy. Yeah,
Tinkerbell.
But there's something about Peter Pan. I think he might have been a fairy. I don't know. Well, that's for a different episode. So let's get into it. I'll go ahead and talk about my fairy. My fairy is called the Aziza. They are a supernatural race, of course, of mythological small people, and they are mainly seen in West Africa. They live in forests, and their homes are actually made out of anthills, or they resemble anthills. So they're itty-bitty little people. They are known to help humans when they're out hunting or out in the forest. And it is said that they gave humans fire, or at least helped humans get fire. So, little history on that. they are not like the fairies in like European tales, the ones that we all kind of know. I do know that a lot of European fairies are kind of like tricksters, and the Aziza are not known for being any sort of type of a trickster. Like, they're very benevolent. All the articles I read and the videos I saw were like, no, they are like super nice. They're, you know, they're not mean at all or play tricks like other fairies. So what do these guys look like? Well, of course, you know, they look like little people since, you know, they live in anthills. Like, they're itty bitty. And I read in a couple articles, like the first articles I started to read, they were saying that they did not have wings. But then I saw a few that were like, no, they do have wings, but they only resemble butterfly wings. So I know, like, I've seen pictures of fairies that'll have, like, I don't know, dragonflies or, you know, like wings that kind of just glitter. But all of the Aziza fairies have been known to have butterfly, specifically butterfly type wings.
Okay.
They kind of glow. Like, I don't want to say it's like this like little light with wings, but they are known to have kind of a glow about them when you see them. And every single one of these guys are very beautiful. I never read anywhere that there was any sort of ugliness or, oh my gosh, you know, that's a bad fairy, like a red cap or something, you know? Like, they're super beautiful and have butterfly wings. And of course, this is West Africa. They're not going to be white. They're going to be African. So I'm just picturing like a little afro on this fairy, and I fucking love it. So
if you're from Africa, why are you
right? Oh, you can't sit with us. So something that I really liked about all the research that I did on the Aziza is that they like to help people. Not only do they like to help people, and they gave people fire, you know, we need fire. They like to share their knowledge of like nature and herbs. So if anybody is lost in the forest or out in the wilderness, they will actually come and help you get out. So I just think that's really interesting compared to some of the other ones that I have read about, you know?
Yeah, that's helpful.
And all right, so I was able to find some YouTube channels, and I'm going to, I really apologize if I mispronounce your name, but I do have the link, and I'll have to post it onto our Instagram, which I will be doing. I haven't done it in the past. But I was on YouTube, and I came across a woman, and her name is Dreshana Cuevas, and she has very little followers, so everybody go follow her because she does have really good content, and she doesn't have enough followers. And she explains her personal experiences with fairies, and she was very specific about the Aziza in one of the videos. Something that she touched on with the Fae Folk in general is that they have high vibrational, they are high vibrational creatures, and I have never heard that saying or those words together in a sentence. And I was like, that's really interesting if you think about the Fae, high vibrational creatures. Like,
so Bigfoot is considered a high vibrational creature.
Yeah, exactly. I would say pretty much all cryptids.
A lot of
be.
cryptids, yeah.
I just don't think I've ever actually heard someone say that. So it was just interesting, and I had to say it. Like, that caught me off guard.
That's what we were talking about. Remember that day that we were talking to Austin about the dimensions or the density?
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about.
I know,
and he thought I was crazy.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, so Dreshana Cuevas, she says that the Aziza are, of course, nature fairies. And this is her story. So she remembers this time in her life. I'm not going to say it verbatim. I just have little snippets. So she was talking about this time in her life where she kept encountering bees. And there was this time that she was driving down the road, and a bee landed on her steering wheel while she was driving and just sat there. And then eventually drove away. But flew away. The bee flew away. But she just got really curious because she was already into like paranormal stuff, and you know, she talks about fairies, like that's her world. So she started just kind of doing her own research, and she started asking herself, you know, what does a bee mean? Start doing research on that. What could it be? What are like some omens for seeing bees. And at one point, she started having this dream that she was surrounded by bees, but she wasn't like scared or anything, and she could really see them. Like she knew they were bees, but then all of a sudden it got like a little more clear. And then she woke up. And of course she has a dream journal. So she starts writing everything down that she remembers. And then she decided to go ahead and Google Black Fairy. And the images that appeared in like her Google search were pretty much identical to the quote bees that she was seeing in her dream. So
that's so creepy.
What she did, she started looking up ways to invite the Fae into her home. And she noticed that she was craving licorice, and she doesn't care for licorice. So she actually made a little altar with like herbs and plants and put licorice there and coins. And the next day it was all gone. And she's like, it had to be the fairies. And I was like, that is just so cool. The way that she was describing it, and she does show her little fairy altar, I'm like, that is like the cutest thing. Like, I just loved it. So that is her encounter with the Aziza. And what I also really liked about her video and her channel is she gets into the different types of fairies, and she explains if you want to be part of the Fae world and you want to invite them into your world, she gives very good ways to invite them in. And she also talks about how we need to be respectful to them because their world is much different than ours. And we need to remember that. Like, they may look human in some way, but they're not. So she has really good tips on how to be respectful and how to offer them to come into your own home. So I just really liked it. So go check out Dre Shauna Cueves on YouTube. And I also came across one that I've talked about before. So I talked about Mint Fairy before on one of our episodes. It might have been Red Caps. I don't remember, but I already had her on my YouTube search. So Mint Fairy, she has a whole bunch of followers and has a lot of stuff about fairies and the Fae world in general. And I really like, that's somebody who I've now gone to a couple times to see what other type of videos she has on fairies. So I definitely recommend going to her YouTube channel and just, you know, going through her videos and whatnot. And she does kind of the same thing that Deshauna does by giving you like tips and whatnot if you want to be part of that world. And her main thing is like, do research. Do your research. Talk to other people. Yeah. You don't want to offend them and then make things bad in your own home. So, you know, that's like the biggest thing.
Oh, gosh.
So, okay, I'm going to go back and talk a little bit more about the Aziza and just really reiterate that they're not tricksters at all. And they might be a little shy, but they want to help people and they will help. So just, you know, don't disrespect nature, and they will definitely come and help you if you're in need of help. So that's the Aziza.
Nice.
Yeah. I also came across one called the Abattoir, which is South African type of fairy. The thing is like, it was really hard for me to find like really good research on the Abattoir. That's why I didn't really want to talk about them. However, a couple things to note is they also live in anthills. So I'm like, okay, that's already what I'm doing research on. So I wondered if they were kind of the same, but they're not. The Abattoir are way more shy, and that they're even tinier than the Aziza because they can hide under like a single blade of grass. So I feel like they're a lot smaller. And I read this article that said the only people who can see the Abattoir are children under the age of 4, and wizards can also see them. However, if you are a pregnant woman and you see a male Abattoir, then that means that the pregnant woman will be having a boy. If she sees a woman, then that means she'll be having a girl. So I was like, that is just, it was really hard for me to find more stuff about them than it did the Aziza. But It's also in Africa, and they're very tiny, peaceful little creatures that live in anthills. So there's a whole bunch of other fairies out there that are definitely not from Europe, and I was really happy to just find all kinds of cool research on the Aziza.
Yeah.
So yeah, go follow those few YouTube channels. I'll make sure to put them up on our Instagram this time also.
All right. Well, I am going to be talking about fairies from Ireland, and I'm going to apologize ahead of time if I pronounce this incorrectly. Irish words are really hard.
Irish words are
I feel
hard.
like
Celtic, right?
I feel like
they're Celtic, right? Celtic words?
Well, yeah, but I don't know what the,
We don't know. Dumb Americans.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But, they, don't look like how they would sound at all.
Okay, cool.
And I feel like it's, the most complicated to pronounce from anything that we've done. So, it's spelled Aos Si, so 2 words. And I think it's pronounced Ishi. So we're going to go with that. And, so the Ishi are an ancient elf-like or fairy-like race of beings that are said to still live in Ireland. And they hide from humans in their underground kingdoms, which I will get to later, I guess.
Underground kingdoms. Okay, I like that, though.
Yeah, they're treated with respect and appeased with offerings, so, not really feared, I would say. In movies and books, fairies are often depicted as, halflings or tiny fairies, but in most Irish sources, they're actually said to be at least as tall as humans, so complete opposite from yours. That's scary to me. That's, scarier to me than the tiny
agree.
ones.
I don't want a giant fairy. I don't know, because they're Irish, and it's they're close to those trickster fairies. You never know, and you don't want a giant trickster fairy. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, these ones aren't really playing tricks on people or anything like that. They're kind of just doing their own thing. But they are said to be very fair and very beautiful. So they're light-skinned fairies. Depending on which myth you read, they're said to reside in the many hills and mounds of Ireland. Some legends say they may live in a whole different dimension, which is a parallel universe that mirrors our dimension.
Oh, okay.
And it's populated by magical creatures.
I've heard of that. I think we've sort of touched on that before with other Irish folklore.
Yeah.
Is that there is the Fae world, and it is not like ours, but they can go in and out of it, and we can't.
Yes. So the myths on where they reside differ, but there is always a constant thing, and that being that there are pathways between 2 realms. So exactly what you said. While unsure what the Ishi are, the fairy interpretation seems to be the most popular opinion, I guess. Some of the others include elves, gods or demigods, and even fallen angels, which I thought that one was kind of interesting. Again, the fairy interpretation really seems to be the most popular one, but the Irish version of fairies doesn't always correspond with our general idea of fairies.
That is true.
So I don't know what you think of when you think of fairies. Usually it's mischievous, up to no good, right?
Yeah, I do kind of think of Tinkerbell playing tricks,
yeah. That's what I think of. They're kind of just chilling. There are 2 main theories in Irish mythology regarding the origin of Ishi. So, kind of the Christian version versus the Celtic version. One interpretation is that the Ishi are fallen angels, once heavenly beings of divine origins that lost their divinity and were basically cast down to earth. I don't know what they did to do that, but according to most sources, the Ishi are the descendants of, I did not look up how to say this crap. Hang
Try
on.
it.
Okay. Of Tuatha De Danann, I don't fucking know, which translates to the people of the goddess Danu. Huh. These were viewed as the original divine inhabitants of Ireland before the Celtics came to the island, so before they kind of invaded, right? It is believed that Celtic invaders pushed out the Ishi to the other world, which is kind of what they call that magical realm that they inhabit in the hills and mounds of Ireland. So That's where the other world is.
Huh. Interesting. So, like, the Celtics, like, just showed up and was like, oh, I don't want these fairies here, and pushed them into the mountains?
I don't know what the Irish history, like, what, I mean, I'm assuming they weren't always there, and they came over, and it says invaders, so I am not 100% on the history of Ireland, so don't quote me on that one. But from what I did see, it kind of sounds like they weren't always there, and they kind of showed up one day and pushed these creatures out.
Interesting. Huh.
Whether these fairy folk live in their underground mound kingdoms or in a whole other dimension, most ancient myths agree that their world and ours would merge, and that's usually at dawn and dusk. So sunset would be when they would cross from their world to ours, and then dawn would be when they would go back to the other world and kind of hide from humans, I guess. The Aos Si are generally viewed as being culturally and intellectually advanced race compared to us, and their most of their work, life, and goals aren't really focused around us. Like, they don't concern themselves with us. They're not too worried about it. It seems like they're pretty advanced, so
wow.
They probably don't care about it, to be honest with you. They're like, these people don't even know. While most are viewed as being benevolent or morally neutral, there are a few examples of malevolent Aos Si, some of them being a vampire maiden, the evil cousin of the leprechaun, the famous headless horseman, and the banshee.
I love it
so those are
much.
A couple. And they all had names that I couldn't pronounce, and
you're not going to try and butcher it?
Anything, so no. Overall, the stories of the Aos Si represent the ancient times and tribes of Ireland in the same way that Christianity preserved and changed many stories of Celtic mythology after they took over the Celtic regions. The Celts, too, in their time also had stories about the people that they replaced, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just mirroring
I have
the
on them.
Yeah.
I don't have any sightings or anything like that, but from what it sounds like, everybody now is still kind of like, yeah, these things exist. They're here. We're all just kind of living with it.
Oh, wow. I've never heard of that before. Like,
interesting.
Well, because, like, we've done... We like a lot of the fairies or like Irish folklore and Scottish folklore is always based around like a mountain or a cave, a lot of it, and it's always has to do with fairies. So I love that there's actually stories out there of a race of people that are more like a fairy and they live there. And I was like, well, duh, that's why every mythological creature and every fairy will come from a cave or like it's all over. See, we need to go visit. I want to go to Ireland and Scotland anyway, so we'll go catch some fairies.
I'm down, but I need to just like brush up on some history and learn how to say things because this was a hard one to get through.
That's great. No, mine was easier.
Hopefully I didn't butcher it too bad.
It sounded right to me.
I mean, I watched the YouTube video that shows how to pronounce it probably like 15 times right before I called you. So.
Oh, I love it. I know. Now I need to figure out what area am I going to look into next for the next fairy.
I already have my next one. I just need to get, like, I want to get more stories. Because I want to do more, like, not necessarily... I mean, we'll do a couple episodes, you know, where we do, like, the facts and origins and stuff like that. And then we could just come up with, like, an episode solely dedicated on, like, sightings and encounters. And I feel like that'd be a good way to, like, end the,
that would be cool.
The series.
I'm down to do that. Let's do that also. Okay, cool. We got a plan. You guys are here.
We're winging this thing.
Oh, man. Well, cool. All right. I really want to hear from anybody who has any sort of encounters with the Fae Folk because I've never seen any. And I will say, like, even today, if I see, like, a fairy ring anywhere, I'm always, like, super excited. Ever since I was a kid, I just love seeing the fairy ring. So,
what is it just like a circle of mushrooms?
That's what I've always thought. Yeah, just a circle of mushrooms, and then it's like, no, there should be a fairy somewhere, and then I never see a fairy. So
I have a picture of myself and my cousin when I was probably like 4 years old, maybe 3.5. And we're looking into a tree for fairies. Aww. And I like vividly remember this like moment in time. I'm going to send you the picture. Maybe we'll post on the Instagram of baby Serena looking into a tree for fairies, because I was convinced that fairies lived in this tree.
My heart, dude.
Yeah, I'll find it. I'll send it to you.
I can't say I ever went fairy hunting as a kid, that's for sure.
I don't know. I like believed in fairies. I always thought my auntie was a witch. I think it was just because she had like really, really long black hair and she like had crystals and stuff.
And you're like, yes, you're a witch. Don't lie. I know.
Sure.
I know what's going on here. You might have everyone else fooled, auntie, but
not me. But yeah, there was this one tree, and it was like in Southland Park. Like, there's no fairies that live in Southland Park in Sacramento, California.
You never know.
Come on.
There was something about that tree, though.
I guess. Yeah, I'll find it though.
Yeah. So, and of course, everybody, you know, send us your stories or any sightings to weirdmythicpodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social medias. You know, Instagram's Weird Mythic Podcast, and Twitter is just Weird Mythic. Thanks. Obviously not.
And then send us an email. Did we already say the email?
It's weirdmythicpodcast@gmail.com. Just in case you didn't hear it.
I was looking around the room to see if I could spot the envelope. I was kind of tuned you out there. But yeah, I'm excited to kick this fairy thing off. So hope you guys stick with us for the next couple weeks. And we'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye.